Hello, this is an update and final presentation about the RDCK's Community Heritage Register project. Drafts for the final two parts, 3 and 4, are now available for your review. This presentation is to walk you through the content of these last two parts, as well as some updates to part 2. So starting with part 2, which previously described how heritage resources are identified in the RDCK and the top 5 sites we had already begun processing, this section now has a more comprehensive list of recommended heritage resources to be placed on the RDCK Community Heritage Register. We had thought we'd be recommending 10 to 15 of them, but we're actually recommending a total of 35, a number that includes the 5 sites we identified previously. Why 35? Because we discovered this is the total number of heritage resources in the RDCK already identified as having heritage value through previous processes, but not directly by the regional district. These processes are: there are 2 sites in the regional district that have been nominated to the National Register of Historic Places, the Brilliant Suspension Bridge and the Nikkei Internment Memorial Center. There are also 19 local sites on the provincial register. There are 2 protected heritage sites not listed on any register. They happen to be the Catalpa tree in Creston and the Raspberry School building in Brilliant. There are 6 heritage resources that have received not only heritage recognition but also funding through CBT or provincial grants. And there are the 5+1 sites we prioritize through the project. I'll walk you through this all on the next slide. So essentially, what we are recommending as a first step for the new RDCK Heritage Register is to consolidate all the previous heritage identification that has been done within the RDCK boundaries, but not by the RDCK, nor to the knowledge of the RDCK. Now these resources will reside, quote unquote, on an RDCK managed list, not on a random collection of government and non-government lists, which are not publicly posted anywhere nor easy to find. All these heritage resources can now be flagged within the RDCK inquiry and planning processes and considered thoughtfully if and when needed. In the document, we included both a list form and a map form of where these 35 resources are, and we are happy that by chance they happen to be quite representative of all electoral areas. I'd like to remind you that there are 4 existing community heritage registers in municipalities in the RDCK. Nelson, Caslow, and Nakusp all have fully developed and updated ones, and even Silverton, we learned recently, established one in May 2008 to place only 1 site on it, the Silverton Gallery. So our list does not include any sites within those municipalities because they have their own community heritage registers. But we are recommending that recognized heritage resources in municipalities that do not yet or may never have community heritage registers should for now be included on the RDCK's register. So for example, you'll see on this list sites in New Denver or Creston. By hosting, quote unquote, heritage resources from certain municipalities without a heritage register, the regional district is positioned as leader and convener for heritage planning matters and ensures that none of this previous heritage identification goes unnoticed or lost in any planning processes. To support this approach, the RD will have to ask all communities to notify them about heritage identification in their area in the future. Luckily, most of these resources already have statements of significance written about them, a document which I will explain in a moment. And we have written statements for the sites we identified as priorities. So of this list of 35 sites, only 9 remain in need of this documentation. Part 3 of the document is dedicated to the statement of significance, or how this document is used in heritage registers and heritage planning. The statement of significance, we call it an SOS, was adopted by the Federal Historic Places Initiatives in 2001 and is a succinct and consistent format to express the heritage values of places that matter to Canadian communities. Each time a heritage resource is added to a community heritage register, it should be reported to the BC Register of Historic Places by submitting an SOS. It's a declaration of heritage value that briefly explains what a historic place is and why it is important. It uses simple, non-technical language to summarize the description, heritage values, and character-defining elements of each historic place. And anyone can write a statement of significance if they have adequate research and guidance. Our document includes answers to all the questions listed here, including links to how-to guides and webinars for writing statements of significance. Apart from being a provincial requirement for documentation of listed heritage resources, this document is most important for how it is a planning tool. It is both a starting point and a guide for anyone who may be involved in decision-making around a historic place, including local governments, planners, communities, property owners, architects, developers, etc. For this project, we have developed a Heritage Register inclusion worksheet, which helps the RDCK determine if a nominated heritage resource should be added or not. However, we designed it in a way that the questions result in value statements, which can be easily adapted or edited into an SOS. We included a sample worksheet for how we processed the Slocan Valley Rail Trail and how the worksheet notes ended up becoming an SOS. The Slocan Valley Rail Trail is one of the 6 priority sites we recommended to add to the initial register, and we have written statements for 5 of them. Some of you may be confused about the fact that I just said 6 when in fact we had discussed 5 sites last time and as part of our contract. What happened is that we were informed by community members of a developing situation around the possible sale of the Harrison Memorial Church in Crawford Bay, which could potentially put it at risk of demolition. After researching the place, it became clear that this would qualify to be included on the register. We also learned that it is important to add a new criteria to the inclusion process by adding the question, is there community advocacy around this heritage resource? Perhaps community advocacy has recently grown or started, bringing it to the RDCK's attention. We all know by now that by listing a site on the register, it is not protected from demolition, but it does allow the regional district to put a 60-day temporary protection on a property if necessary, to buy more time to find a meaningful outcome. Also, the formal heritage status means the CBT or the province are more likely to grant it funding, even just for a feasibility study or a structural assessment. Being listed gives this identified heritage resource a better chance. Part 4 outlines recommended policies for managing and implementing the register. These are all customized to the regional district's context, and reality. One of the policies we're recommending is that there be a community advisory body that help manage the community heritage register and advise the RDCK when there are heritage projects or issues that need some input. Rather than recommending a new commissioner panel, we're suggesting that the APC, the Advisory Planning Commission, adapt its mandate and composition to include heritage review. This commission would meet ad hoc when necessary, and we're recommending that there be at least 2 members of local heritage societies with an understanding of heritage on the commission and 1 representative or a liaison from the RAC. Finally, we've included an implementation table at the end of the document which helps to establish, manage, and review this new tool, starting from the need to establish it by Board of Directors resolution to regular management and review once a year during Heritage Week to ensure that this very specific model is working and that no tweaks are needed. We are thrilled that a web page is already up for the Community Heritage Register. Many more additional links and resources can now be added to it from this completed project. Again, positioning the regional district as the go-to authority and convener on heritage matters in the region. That's it for me. Now I'm happy to take any questions or comments.